Welcome, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3's Black Ice 10.41. And I'm at sort of the beginning of the episode, I'm going to tell you a lot of my plans for upcoming actions and all of that. But first, before that, I want to thank the Hoffmanator and Sircon for their support over on Patreon. I really do appreciate their support, what they've done over there. Thank you very much. But for everybody else, just liking the videos, subscribing, that's all I really ask. If you just do those, it really helps the videos get more exposure. It helps. And it's also good for me when I see you guys take the time to hit that like button, and the more subscribers is great. All right, like I said, I wanted to talk about my plans. Well, we're going to invade Malta. Just how we're going to invade Malta, I'm not sure yet. I'm thinking airborne. I'm thinking maybe entirely airborne. Maybe just try it. I do feel a little bit with this game. Don't know if we have a good appreciation of what the planning staff would be able to term as likely chance of success. Levels of fortification, levels of garrisoning, but we'll figure that out. So we'll see about that. We do have some ability to do naval invasions here. We will see. So to that end, I have shifted much of this air that you see here is heading to Italy. Some of it I've just sort of shifted to operating here from wherever they were currently based, but a lot more is coming over to Italy, and we're going to first get some fighters up over this region here to dominate the air, and continue naval striking around here so that anything that floats gets munched as much as possible. So we're doing that. We're going to move maybe everything but the mountain division here to the coast eventually, and then over to Italy. But right now, some of the units here are still holding the front lines, so we're going to leave them for the moment. But they're going to get to the coast and then move somewhere to Italy and be ready. See what we can do and also how many heavy transports we can get, or just transports we can get into the area to supply things. Will also be an issue here, and I think the others are up here. My sort of regular transports. See what we can get on for air operations to see if I think it's enough to take what's there. So that's what we're going to do now. I am trying my best, everything that I know how to do, and you can post down here, try to increase the threat of Britain and of the Soviet Union, so that these Iran, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia will feel more threatened by, because they have Britain or the Soviet Union, particularly for Iran, on their front, so that hopefully they'll want to join the Axis more. We are influencing their nation to get them to like us better. So let's see, can we Saudi Arabia, no, I think maybe can we we're influencing them for transit rights, give transit right, embargo by production, allow that. Now, if we had a way to reduce their neutrality levels, different continent member of the Axis, so we're working on their neutrality is 37. So trying to get these guys in. I am of the opinion if at some point fairly soon, if it doesn't look like it, maybe we invade. We will see. With declare war with the idea of puppeting them, so that I want to have a good force, if not ready to go on day one across this border, getting there, because it's one, actually in a way, if I really thought Iran was going to come in, say a month after the invasion starts, and I have a huge amount of forces sitting back here, that's not so bad, because the Soviet Union will start sending, forces to deal with the invasion, and then they get hit down here, where if I'm sitting here with a bunch of panzer division, and these are, and Iran is in the Axis, they're going to feel the threat there and move a lot of forces to oppose them. So not that we can't defeat those forces, but it just would maybe be easier to come in here, capture a lot of stuff, and then have them turn the forces that were marching this way back around after we've had some easy captures. So I want to get a mountain force, because we're facing a lot of mountains in here. Possibly a Jaeger force, because supply issues. So we want divisions that operate with a limited amount of supply, and a sort of mobile armored force. I really don't want necessarily too many regular infantry divisions. Now, once we come in, we very well may also invade Bantuni down here to set up, and there with some supply coming in, we may put in some infantry divisions as well. So a lot of opportunity down here. We don't have Tanganyika installed, I know, so not quite as cool as it could be. I don't know how much we're going to push into the darkest Africa, but probably some. But now that Italy has a firm, secure, or as relatively secure as it can be right now, supply lines. See, some partisans showing up there. They should be able to hold out against the British and other Commonwealth or Allied forces. So I very well may send and I have increased more Jaeger divisions. And we already have some Jaeger divisions here. These guys may end up going to Africa or the Caucasus, one of the two, or whatever. And these guys end up being the ones that are for the swamps, terrible swamps around Stalingrad area. So, yeah, and we also have the Jaeger Corps over, here. I have this Jaeger Corps. It's getting ready to invade Switzerland, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So, yeah, I don't want to have time getting ready to invade Soviet Union in, spring 42. I know we got a lot of time right now, but in spring 42, and have, two Panzer Corps stuck in deepest Sudan somewhere battling the British, that I've got to either delay Barbarossa, or they're going to show up late for Barbarossa. Again, it's one thing if it's a month or even 2 months, bursting out against an undefended front along here, that would be great. And realize that if Iran is in the Axis, we may have to no, this is, I think, impassable. I think some of this is just impassable terrain, so we don't maybe have to worry so much about that. But yeah, but I really don't want to have the units delayed because of extracting them from Africa, to either delay the Barbarossa in that year, or limit the power of Barbarossa pushing in at that time. So we've got to carefully monitor. Right now, yeah, we got plenty of time. It's only the airborne forces that I'm particularly Obviously, they've got to get better shape. We're going to prioritize him for reinforcements and upgrades just to make sure he's getting them. Yeah, so because we want to, I want to get the airborne out ready to go after Malta, but otherwise, I'm very willing to use the armored and other forces here. Now for Malta, I don't know what I can do. I know we can base out of here to do a seaborne invasion, and we're getting some more landing craft, and so we may try that. I don't know if we can get, and I'm thinking before the Americans show up, and invade and get Vichy France on our side, but we will see, to be able to do a airborne invasion like we're planning with Malta or some other operations. We will see. And again, I don't know that our landing craft have that range from here to there. I really don't think so. I know the auxiliary vessels do not. So I don't know what we can do here. I just quite honestly don't know what we literally can do without, declaring war on Spain and moving through, and I'm refusing to do that. If this was Republican Spain, I would think very differently about it, but no. So we're going to do that. And then, okay, now we're getting ready for a invasion of Switzerland. Why are we invading Switzerland? Hey, gamer, I thought you were playing something historically plausible. Yep, that's the thing. One, I believe, had Wilhelm Gustloff not been killed by David Frankenfurter. I confuse that last name, but he's a hero. He was a Jewish man. Wilhelm Gustloff was a fairly high-ranking Nazi, and in 1936, who had both German citizen and Swiss citizenship. The Swiss had already banned political parties from using foreign symbols. So you could not use a swastika or a hammer and sickle. Pretty sure a hammer and sickle. In your party affiliations, you could not have a uniformed political party, political uniforms were banned at this time, and I think still are in Switzerland. So the Harstrupp, as you've probably seen some of the events. Oh, well, we haven't been playing TRE, but if you play TRE, you've seen some of the events of German penetration, and the Harstrupps were one of I forget which party. National Front. Front National is, I think, there was a Front National, which I think is the French fascist in. God, I can't remember all these things. Front National, I think, is the French fascist in Switzerland, and the National Front are the German Nazis in Switzerland, or one of the major parties. There's a bunch. There's some come and go. Some have already disappeared, functionally at least, have disappeared by the time, 1936. There was, I think it's the National Front is the only one that actually gets a member in their parliament. Of any of and then there's also there's an Italian fascist party as well. Sorry, I'm not remembering all the names right now, but I've researched them in the past, and just don't remember things well enough. But so these are all fringe parties, and they just don't get enough support in enough areas to actually get a majority in. And so, but the Nazi parties, they're, at least for the Germans, they're mostly Nazis. Nazis and fascists are different ideologies. They have different systems. I've gone into them in other videos. There's a lot of similarities. And if you're from the outside looking in, they might all seem the same. And I think they're both corporate. Well, no, they're both socialistic. They're both because there's a lot of socialism in National Socialism. There's a lot of socialism in fascism. Both of those ideologies, National Socialism and fascism, have rejected the leveling aspect of communism and other socialist type. This is where a lot of people don't. This is why they mistake them. I'm right now, I think my RTX voice or whatever is maybe hopefully eliminating it from you, but I hear loud lawnmowers outside. And what communism in the sort of extreme case, socialism in the general case, are worried about things like wealth inequality. There's nothing wrong with wealth inequality. Absolutely nothing wrong with wealth inequality. Are worried about that and wanting to, they're levelers. That's a term from a political movement in Britain pre-communism. And it is not leveling in Britain. The old stuff wasn't communistable, but everyone is an equal outcome. Equity, as they like to use the term now. Equal outcomes. Well, you get equal outcomes by mowing, not by rising up, not by growing. See, we like our lawns to be, equal, nice, pretty grass. And that's fine for grass. Cutting grass is good. Grass is designed to be eaten by animals as its function. Not pulled up by the roots, but mowed by like cows and whatnot. It's meant to be eaten or lawn mowed. It functions well as that. But communism, socialism, wants to get equality by mowing the grass. That's evil because you're mowing down people. Even if you're not actually killing them or chopping their legs off or something like that, but you're limiting their ability. You want to have growth. And who cares if one bit of grass is 10 times as tall as another bit of grass if you're trying for growth of humanity? So long as all the grass is green and it all gets watered and it all gets fertilized well enough. Now, if you have, they talk about in the modern sense, because we're now in the first world, they're talking about it, first world problems. I know I'm going into politics here, but wealth inequality. They're no longer talking about, in these advanced countries, things like food, housing, decent jobs. I would understand, when you're talking about, oh, well, hey, these poor people don't have electricity in their homes. They don't even have glass windows, or they're living 6 people to a room, and a family lives in a single room, and they have just a tap that you turn on and just water comes out. No idea of hot water, and that's it. No showers, no toilets. If you're talking about things like that, you got a point. Now, unless you're going to reestablish colonialism or empires of one sort, I'm sorry, we can't fix it like places like Africa. We can try to help. People, NGOs can go down there, or governments can go down there and try to help, but they've got to fix themselves or we've got to conquer them. Your choice. So yes, we can't fix the whole world unless we're going conquering, and we can help, but we can't solve. We can never solve their problems. They have to solve their own problems. And if you feel guilty because you're living in an advanced part of the world that you don't have those problems, and you see people in Africa, fine, donate, give money, do what you can, but don't mow your people down for the inability to fix something in Africa without invading it. And you're going to kill people to invade it. And maybe we should, because if we will use an old term, they're the barbarians. I don't, or whatever, but invade the barbarous lands. I'm not trying to put them down. Hi, Roberto, a friend of mine who's Angolan. Not just lives in Angola, he's Angolan. But they're not first world countries, so they're not. We can talk about things, but we can help them, but they've got to solve their own problems, or we've got to invade and conquer. Those are the only two real functional options. So if you're talking about in the modern day Western world, yeah, there is poverty. You can work to alleviate it in the Western world to make it less. But the idea that somebody's poor, trust me, I've been poor. Whether you consider me poor now in the Western sense or not, I don't know, but I've been poor. It's fine, poor is fine. So long as, again, they have enough to eat, they have a nice apartment of some sort. They've got, cable television, internet access, whatever, if they've got the basics functioning, well, okay. And then so what if somebody has 3 private jets? So long as the people in your society are reasonably well taken care of, who cares about wealth inequality? Getting back to fascism and National Socialism, both are significant socialist aspects, but neither of those ideologies are leveling ideologies, meaning they are fine with somebody being rich or super rich in their society, so long as their socialism is able to function. And and so it's how do I put, one of the major differences economically between fascism and National Socialism. Fascism wants a well-ordered economy in which goods and services are well managed by the government. National Socialism doesn't want capitalism, but it does want competition and conflict between economic elements, meaning they want to have a competing system for automobile manufacturers. Hitler wants that conflict. Hitler believes conflict builds strength. Sort of go back to the idea of the shadows in Babylon 5. Hitler likes that. Hitler wants that conflict, and he wants it down in the economy. But he doesn't want it to be to what they see as the level of exploitation of capitalism. So he does want that conflict. So there's some differences to their ideology. Now, I don't know, and we're getting back to Switzerland, I don't know how well that the economic elements translated to the difference between the fascist parties and the Nazi parties in Switzerland. I do know the big thing, and I say parties, Nazi parties in Switzerland. I know the big thing with the Nazi parties in Switzerland, difference than the Italians and the French fascists, is a race ideology that's added to it. So I don't know some of the economic philosophies how they are, but there's a bunch of splintering Nazi parties in Switzerland, and they there's multiple reasons for the splits, but a lot of it is personalities. Everybody wants to be the Führer kind of thing, and a few of them continue to use swastikas, which are banned, and I have photographs of postcards in which they have, like postage stamp like things that say like verboten or whatever, and they put them on top of the as they get mailed into or mailed internally in Switzerland. The censors put these postage stamps on top of the postage stamps looking things on top of the swastikas postcards as they're going through the mail. So that's how they're censoring these illegal images coming through the mail. And the parties that are using the swastikas are based outside of Switzerland for the most part. I mean, they have members in Switzerland, but their sort of headquarters and their propaganda printing presses are in Germany. And they're, filtering their propaganda in, where like the National Front is using Swiss symbols. They do have their Horse troops, which is a type of SA. They will wear, shirts, not maybe all white, but shorts and shorts, but different colors of shorts, and or lederhosen type things, but shorts and like a shirt and a Sam Brown belt, which is a belt that goes around you, and then a shoulder cross shoulder strap or something like that. So they're not quite in a uniform, but you can tell that they're all part of the group kind of thing. And so they do have their sort of SA, but not quite uniformed party militia. And so they have these types of things going on to comply with the main group, the one that has a seat in the parliament, at least for a while, comply with Swiss law. But these Swiss laws do not extend to foreigners in Switzerland. So there are a bunch of local Nazi party headquarters with a bunch of Nazis in them, and they will blatantly display, including on things sort of like roadside saying, local Nazi party headquarters over here with a swastika, because it is the German Nazi party that's in Switzerland. And these people, these Germans, for the most part, do not vote in Swiss elections. So there are Germans that have fled to Switzerland that are anti-Nazi, but there are probably more than half, well more than half is my understanding, of Germans living in Switzerland are more or less supporting of the Nazis, and at least publicly do so, because that's the thing to do. And they're just there for various reasons. But as the war is going on, of course, some of the reasons are get away from the bombings and whatnot. But so the Swiss do not try to, if there's doing a local Nazi party meeting and everybody, the local SA type guys are in their uniform, the Swiss don't do anything about that because they're all Germans. Wilhelm Gustloff has dual citizenship. He is a member of the German National Socialist Party, but he is also a Swiss citizen, so he can vote that's why I said for the most part, he can vote in Swiss elections. He was the guy who was in charge of the NSDAP Ausland. I think that's exactly the title. National Socialist Party, yeah, of course. Ausland. Basically, outside of Germany. And this is specifically for German national citizens living abroad, meaning living outside of Germany. Not Germanic peoples or German-speaking peoples outside of Germany. This is for German citizens outside of Germany. So it is a bit of a fifth column, most assuredly, because they filter information back to Germany. But it is not like the German-American Bund, headed by Fritz Kuhn, who was an American citizen but born in Germany with German citizenship, but had at some age. He did speak some German, I do understand, or maybe reasonably well. But at some age, he came to America and got American citizenship, which he had it removed because of his stuff. So he is looking at a party of primarily American citizens of German descent, kind of thing, as opposed to German citizens living in America. So Fritz Kuhn is, so he would not be under or organized specifically by the NSDAP Ausland. So Wilhelm Gustloff is in charge of this, but Wilhelm Gustloff is also very much specifically involved, as far as I can tell, with the various Germanic Nazi party elements within Switzerland. I think killing him I think he would have pushed the Nazis to really stir up trouble and eventually invade Switzerland. But by killing him, you no longer have this key guy in place that's focused on Switzerland. And the one thing that Hitler wants to do, basically above all other things as I can understand it, wants all these German peoples in greater Europe, shall we say, all Germans to be under, be part of Nazi Germany. And we're not talking about the few expatriates living in other countries that are German citizens. We're talking about German ethnic groups. So he's not planning on conquering America just to get the German ethnic groups in America to be under Nazi rule, or trying to conquer like Argentina where there's, Germans have moved. No, he's talking about Austria, Germans living in, East Prussia, Germans living out in the Soviet Union, Germans living wherever. He wants to bring all of them into Germany or have Germany expand to them. I am sure he wants to get the Swiss Germans as part of them. That was not going to be allowed to, in the long run, to be allowed to be a continuing thing. Now, whether, something like this sort of happens after, the defeat of the Soviet Union and defeat of Britain or whatever, and you put all your tanks on your side, saying, hey, yeah, Switzerland, we're going to invade you unless you give us, half of your country, however you want to define it, and you can keep the rest if you want. The Swiss and the Italians. And of course, Mussolini may want the Italians. There was an Italian fascist party that did have some support from Mussolini, but so they may end up breaking it up anyways. But either that or we're invading. That was not going to be a long-term allowing of Swiss Germans to be a independent thing, independent country. I don't know that particularly he wanted to get places like Geneva down here. Find a place I can click. Is that where, Geneva here? Yeah. Down here that was mostly, French speaking or whatever. Now, whether that would be incorporated into whatever New France would have been, or whether there would have been some sort of rump, non-German Switzerland, I don't know. But yeah, I think that would have happened eventually. And I think what just kept it from happening during World War II was the point man, the main person concerned about it, gets killed in 1936 by David Frankfurter. Yeah, sort of like the hot dog. That's what sort of throws me. I'm not trying to make fun of his name. And describe the situation. He comes to Wilhelm Gustloff's office and in his home. He has a home office. I think it's shown in by Wilhelm Gustloff's wife for the meeting. He comes in, pulls out his gun, shoots him, sets the gun down, and waits for the police to show up. He doesn't try to run away, doesn't try to hide what he did, confesses what he did, gets convicted for murder. There is no death penalty at the time in Switzerland. I presume not today, but at the time there was no death penalty. So put in prison for life, into a Swiss jail. And sometime in 1945, this happens in 1936, sometime in 1945, during the last days of the Reich, he gets pardoned. Hi, yes, yeah, you can go. You can go. We're done. Your life sentences. You're pardoned. So basically, they only really kept him in prison as long as they did to appease the Germans. Now, I think they would have imprisoned him anyways, even just because of law and order. But once, by 1945, the evils of the death camps were really becoming apparent and everything else. And so, yeah, the Swiss authorities, this was sort of an act of self-defense. for Jews, generally speaking, and he was not a madman with a gun running around and just shooting people. He was taking out assassinating a particular Nazi. And so they let him out, and then he immigrates to Israel and lives for the rest of his life in Israel. So that's his story. So yeah, we're getting ready to invade. I'm shifting some forces around, as you can see, because I took a quick look at here. Zurich and Bern are the two victory points that we're going to push in some of the other places. So we're going to take out Switzerland. As soon as we are ready, we're going to invade. Why am I doing this? Well, the main reason with this playthrough is all these Italian units here. Italy is paranoid about what's happening with Switzerland. They're a little too paranoid also about what's happening in Vichy France. So when we can get Vichy France in the Axis, that would be good. There is no real possibility, even though with TRE you do have events that move Switzerland to more friendly situations with Germany. Naturally, the way the game is done, Switzerland will start influencing itself away from any major power it gets too close to. So you will not, similarly with Turkey, away with both basic hearts of iron as well as black ice. Even black ice could mod it, but these countries are designed to not get too close, but they can be a little bit closer to one or the other to do better trade agreements or whatever, more likely to buy your goods or sell you stuff, and so you can have them a bit more friendly to you than a bit more hostile. So those do change. But Vichy France, I do believe under certain conditions, will be allowed to come into the Axis. So if we can do that, that will alleviate the problem. If there was a practical way, and because I do not think it is realistic for Switzerland, through just general political whatever, to actually join the Axis. TRE does not. It does have some events that help, again, move it to more friendly into the Axis, and also to boost fascism support within the country. But it does not. There are no events or anything like that to actually get it into the Axis. Now, if you invade and if you've supported the Swiss Nazis, you do get some benefits at that point that you wouldn't get otherwise. So yes, if you're going to invade, you should support the Swiss Nazis. So this planning episode here, let's continue. So sometime spring, once we think the weather is good enough, 1942, we are going to burst out into Germany. Yes, we're going to try to take the three significant cities: Leningrad, Moscow, Stalingrad. First season. We are, like I was saying, we're going to come from the south here. That will give us a lot of advantage on pushing to Stalingrad. I don't know how well things are coded to deal with that, but we will find out, as in surrender events and whatnot with the basic. But this is, I know they're making changes, but this is a reconnaissance, shall we say, of what's going on. What are we missing here? Headquarters. Artillery. We're missing artillery. We're missing artillery on all of these guys, because we have artillery. I'm going to remove the transports. Okay, there is 2 artillery, a medium and a sort of light or regular. The medium used to just be, already used up some of the units for other things. That's 3 artillery, including a heavy going that direction. Is there another event? Oh, here, maybe here. A heavy gun. These, the railway are not what I'm looking for. Did I use it? Sometimes I plan things and then I'm looking around and I see other opportunities for stuff. Add some artillery to some other unit. Well, I don't know for sure. Yeah, here, did I maybe put one of the captured? Yeah, because he was without artillery. He has captured anti-aircraft guns, but yeah. AT French guns. That's one of the artilleries. These guys were waiting on. These units here. Semi-motorized infantry. Right, so we're planning on, taking the 3 main cities with, Army Group North, Army Group Central, Army Group South, Army Group Caucus, basically. Or at least Army Caucus is what we're planning on doing. And hopefully be ready for scripted invasions of Vichy France in 42 as well, to deal with the Americans. So we're planning on that. I don't know how far we're going to burst out into the Indian Ocean, but we very well may. Just got to make sure that we're not moving too many resources away from, obviously, the fight in the Soviet Union. To do that, and I think we're going to just see how Britain and the US handle dealing with occupied Europe coming up. So I think that's, the further out, obviously the plans are more vague, but we're basically, like I say, planning on, just save this here, invading Switzerland coming fairly soon, though I think well before winter sets in, so we should be able to do that. And as soon as we get enough things ready down here, including the airborne forces here, then we will do a concentrated bombing campaign on the island, where before we're going to use a lot of the air power that we're moving here just to do naval strikes in the area to try to force away, or damage or destroy or force away naval assets, but have them all sort of saved up, and we can quickly let's look up Bomber Command here, maybe a good one. Fleet Corps bombers. We see a lot of rebasing here, as you can see. Rebase. So I don't know if all of these are going to be within range, because some of them are actually coming. The medium bombers are coming up to Rome. Don't know if they can make it down here, but we'll see. But so all that, once that's there, once it's organized up enough and ready to go, and we have the airborne, because we don't need to knock down all their defenses and disrupt the ground units, and then not invade because whatever, and have them rebuild back up. So we want to get them built back up beforehand. So, well, that's the planning special of what, look forward to it. No, it's a bit different, but hopefully it's well labeled so you understand what we're doing this episode. So thank you to everyone who made it this far. Love to hear your thoughts on my plans. Love to hear your thoughts on anything else. Got any questions? Post them below. See you next time for even more Hearts of Iron.